in the vain hope that if there's somebody in this room that I have the courage to do something about it. When I was 7, I was sexually abused by my stepfather. I wasn't expecting to do this. When I was 28, I was raped. And when I was 41, I was sexually assaulted. I kept my mouth shut when I was 7 and my mum died never knowing I was abused. When I was raped, I kept my mouth shut, I spoke to the doctors, but I never went to the police. But when I was 41, the poor bugger got it. I was ready, and I challenged him. And I went to court, and he was found guilty. Something that Elias said earlier on was that when something happens as a child, it ruins your life forever. It ruined my life for but a few years. Because as I stand here today, I'm no longer a victim, I'm a survivor. And I desperately, desperately want to get out there and help people. Because it's my experience that puts me there, that makes me understand them. But I didn't tell my mum, not because I didn't think she'd actually believe me, because I knew she'd do time. And that's true, she would have killed the man. I didn't report the rapist because I didn't think, well, the rapists, there was 2, they were brothers. I didn't think people would believe me and thought that I'd be dirty. And I had very bad self-images as a child. I had anorexia, I was very violent. But then all of a sudden I tried to let it go. And I chose to share this information with you today because everything that everybody said was spot on. And we need to be out there. We need to challenge. We need to change people's perceptions. Male perception, female perception. How are we going to do that if we just shut the door and ignore it and make excuses for it? Encourage children to come forward and tell their parents if they have the ability to. Encourage children. Talk to boys, talk to girls, get it out there, speak to parents. Because also we need to embrace the children, encourage them to speak, but we need to educate the parents to trust and believe, because it's very easy for parents to not want to believe because they don't want to, or they daren't for themselves because they're oppressed. I've used all of my experiences in my life, and I am now a trade unionist and I work with Unison as a women's officer, and I do work around domestic violence. And I'm looking into working. And I actually represented somebody a few weeks ago who was actually off work constantly because she had issues with her own abuse. And I worked with the employers, to take a step back and not punish the employee, by sanctioning them and penalising them for their absence at work, but to work with them, to give them the help that they need, to embrace what, well, not embrace, but to deal with what has happened to them. So we may even actually have to go back to employees and employers as well and encourage companies to help people out there that are starting to disclose things. It's vital that we come together as a community, because if we don't, we'll never make a change and we'll never stop it.
You know, thank you for sharing your story. It's very powerful, and it says more than any of us can say. And I'm privileged as well that I've worked with many survivors of sexual abuse who have been through things we can't even imagine in terms of how harrowing and how horrific they are, and yet they show resilience, and that they've shown compassion, and that they've channeled all the anger, the frustration, the despair that they had into a force for doing good in the world. And there are amazing people out there who are, again, out there really saving people's lives. We need to recognise them, we need to recognise those individuals, and we need to support them. And we need to support them because they are some of the best people that I've worked with in terms of actually identifying people at risk and actually having the skills and the life experience to actually channel those people away from the risk. But equally, I have to say, unfortunately, there are too many people who are irrevocably damaged. And there are too many people who suffer in silence, and silence kills. And we've got to do much more.